Good evening. Welcome to the Development Management Committee. I'm Councillor Kieran Bowker, the Chair of the committee. Before we start the meeting, I need to make the public attending aware of the following. We're not expecting a fire drill, so if the fire alarm goes off, please make your way out of the nearest emergency exit and gather at the front of Runnymede Hall. Meetings of the committee are webcast and broadcast on the internet. If you're seated in the public area of the council chamber, it's possible that your image will become part of the broadcast. And lastly, may I ask all present to switch mobile phones to silent? Thank you very much. May I ask the Development Management Committee members present who are seated in the chamber in the front row of me to introduce themselves, stating your name only, starting on my left.
Good evening, my name's Councillor Peter Gregg, I'm Vice Chairman of this committee.
Good evening, Councillor Alan Maycott. Good evening, Councillor John Anderson.
Good evening, Councillor Michael Fuller, substituting for Councillor Carol Sage, who is unwell and unable to attend this evening.
Good evening all, Councillor Rob Lillis.
Good evening, Councillor Gareth Howlett.
Good evening, Councillor Ross Savage.
Good evening, Councillor Jackie Thornton.
And good evening, Councillor Tom Skip.
May I ask any other members present to introduce themselves?
Good evening, Councillor Andrew Thornton.
May I ask the officers present to introduce themselves again, starting on my left?
Teresa Harrington, Planning Officer.
Stephen Garner, the Assistant Director for Development Services.
Anne Horgan, Monitoring Officer, Head of Governance, and if I may, Chairman, may I formally introduce to you Sonia Worthington, who's sitting to your right, who's sitting to the right of the Chairman, who is the new Democratic Services Manager. You'll be seeing Sonia now at meetings from here on in.
Welcome, Sonia.
And David Bland, the Legal Advisor to the committee.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is apologies. Are there any apologies for absence?
Chairman, we have apologies from Councillor Sage and Councillor Fuller, who's substituting.
Thank you. Item 2 is members' interests. In relation to agenda item 5.2, the applicant, Hannah Barton-Brown, is known to all members of the committee, as until recently she was a member of the committee and is now a substitute member. On behalf of the committee, I make the declaration that this association will not affect the committee's judgment of this matter, and the Planning Committee will make its decision based upon the content of the Planning Officer's report and after consideration and listening to all the views expressed during the committee. Is this agreed? Item 3 is minutes. Are the minutes for the Development Management Committee held on the 9th of January 2024 agreed? Yeah. Thank you. Item 4 is public speakers. Members, there's an error on the agenda. The next item, which appears as item 3, should be item 4, public speakers. There are no public speakers. Item 5 is deposited plans. Again, members, there, item 4 on the agenda should be noted as item 5. Item 1 is 6 Aylett Road, Canvey Island North Ward. I'll now hand over to the Planning Officer to present this item.
Thank you very much, Chairman. This application is being represented to committee because it was deferred on the 5th of December meeting. The proposal is for a change of use of the existing house into a children's home for up to 3 children. The recommendation to approve the application was voted upon and the motion was lost, and an alternate motion was put forward to defer the application in order to obtain additional information. This additional information that was requested was to obtain further information regarding the location assessment, whether the proposal is part of the Essex County Council framework, and confirmation of the proposed age group of the children who would be living at the property. The additional information was requested and the report before you provides that. I won't go over the response in any great detail. However, I would highlight that none of the additional information changes the professional opinion of planning officers set out in the report presented to you at the previous committee meeting, and the recommendation therefore remains unchanged. I will take the point to reiterate my comments from the 5th of December that whilst the age range being applied for by the applicant is for children aged 8 to 16, that the condition that was recommended was to allow children up to the age of 18 to reside there. That was because that was a personal thing. I felt it was rather harsh to a child turns 16 to kick them out. However, it is within your gift to amend that. The applicant has confirmed that it is still for children up to the age of 16. If members wish to amend that condition, that you can do. I'm also aware that following the meeting recently, members of the committee have been contacted by 2 members of the public by email, one supporting the application and one opposing the application. There's only a couple of points that I want to address quickly. Is that the appropriate time to raise these comments and concerns is during the public consultation period. And also, I just want to highlight that the emails that were sent to members represent the views of individuals, not organisations, and that the correct properties have been consulted as a result of this application. So, consequently, subject to the further information that's been provided, the application is still recommended for approval to change the use of the property to a children's care home, subject to the conditions set out before you. And I hand back to the chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. As this application is on Canvey Island, would anyone from the Canvey Island Town Council or representative like to say anything?
Point of order.
Yes, Councillor Fuller.
Can I just on the original planning committee when this item was brought forward, I'm not allowed to engage within this part of the meeting. Is that correct?
You are completely correct.
Thank you very much.
Members, this application was deferred from the meeting held on the 5th of December. As this is a continuation of consideration of the item deferred from the 5th of December, only those members of the committee who were present this evening and were present at the meeting on the 5th of December can take part in the debate and vote on the application. For clarity, the following members were present on the 5th of December. Councillors Bowker, Gregg, Aylett, Anderson, Howlett, Lillis, Savage, Skip and Councillor Jackie Thornton. Finally, may I remind you that we are considering the application only on the agenda papers before us this evening and nothing else. No late information presented from investigations on the internet during the meeting. Thank you. Before I move the recommendation, do members have any questions for the planning officer about the planning application? Please note that this is a member's opportunity to seek clarification from the planning officer on any matters which they are unclear of regarding the application. Members should refrain from making statements about their views on the proposal. These should be expressed in the debate section of the meeting. Who would like to ask a question? Councillor Lillis.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Steve. At the meeting of the 5th of December last year, this committee felt that further information on a location risk assessment should be obtained, clarification as to whether the proposal was part of the ECC framework, and confirmation of the age group of the children to be housed at the property. I can see, and you've mentioned that the age group has been addressed. But can I ask where the location risk assessment is, and ask if we obtained clarification that the proposal is indeed part of the ECC framework? And just for the record, I don't consider Appendix 2 to be a location risk assessment. Thank you.
Thank you. So the information that was provided in Appendix 2 is the information that's been provided by the applicant. We've not had any direct correspondence with Essex County Council directly. However, we've been told that they are in conversation with the applicant about children being placed there. I do just want to highlight that it's not a requirement for the planning process that the location assessment is submitted. So there wasn't any reason for us to sort of query or clarify anything else about what was submitted.
Councillor Lillis.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, if I could just come back on that. Obviously, the will of the committee was for certain documentation to be provided. So you were prepared for us to go back at that stage, but I don't think it's been provided to us. That's the point that I'm trying to make. Thank you.
So we've requested the information that the committee asked for. We've gone back. This is what was provided in Appendix 2 is what the applicant has provided. It's simple as that.
Councillor Jackie Thornton.
Thank you. We still don't have clarification that it is part of the Essex framework, do we?
We've not had any direct clarification. It's part of the framework. The applicant has told us that they are in conversation with Essex County Council, but
we don't know if it's on Essex County Council framework. Okay. We also discussed at the previous meeting that if it was approved, if it could be conditioned. From what I can see, the applicant has got no objection to it being conditioned at Essex County Council first scheme, similar to, you remember I sent you the condition that Basildon uses. Is it possible to have that conditioned if it gets approved?
So with that condition, thank you for sending me over the details after the last committee. Amongst the planning officers, we spent a considerable amount of time looking at the condition and considering whether it meets the requirements of the 6 conditions tests at paragraph 54 of the MPPF. We came to the conclusion that we don't think that condition meets the requirements of the conditions test, because conditions ultimately are required to make what would otherwise be an unacceptable development acceptable. So whether the children are from Essex, which is the government and sort of Essex's framework of trying to place children as close to home as possible anyway, or whether they're from elsewhere in the country, it doesn't change the fact that it's a children's home. And so it doesn't change. We didn't feel that it was reasonable and necessary in all other respects and would meet those conditions tests.
Councillor Skipp.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I've got 2 points now. Following on from Councillor Thornton's thing, I mean, the applicant has said they're willing to have that as a condition in the recommendation. So I don't see why we can't consider some way of including that. But my second point relates to the DOCO of Essex Police have said they would like to meet with the applicant to discuss the issues over security, etc. And again, there's no recommendation in that. And I understand you're saying we can't do that, but it would be good if we could reference that in some way so it's highlighted at least.
So I'll start with the designing out crime officer comments. We can't condition that applicants meet with third parties or that they do that. However, in reference to that, it is included as an informative on which would go out on the decision notice that it's the comments of the designing out crime officer that it's recommended to meet with them to talk about security. I know from their response it was regarding any need for CCTV, secure locks on doors and windows and the like. And then I completely agree, understand where you're coming from, that the applicant has indicated that they're willing for an Essex first condition. If it's something that members want to add on, it is again something within their gift. However, my personal advice, professional advice, is that I don't think it's enforceable. If it came to in the future, there may be where suddenly there was reports that someone was living there and they came from another county and they'd usurped someone potentially that was from Essex. My professional opinion is that there could be difficulties with enforcing that condition. However, members, it's up to you.
Are there any other questions for the planning officer? The planning officer's recommendation is that planning permission be granted, subject to the conditions and informatives set out in the report. For the purposes of debate, I move the recommendation. Councillor Gregg, as Vice Chairman, will you second this motion?
I will second this motion.
Thank you. Please note that members should only speak once during the debate section of the meeting. Who would like to speak first? Councillor Thornton.
Can I request, if this does get approved, that the 2 conditions are attached, one being the age, taking it up to 18, and the second being the Essex first, please? Thank you.
That was a question rather than a statement, wasn't it, Councillor Thornton? You would like that, okay. Is that possible, Stephen?
It's possible, however, there would have to, because the motion has been moved, there would have to be a vote on the original motion, and then if that was lost, there'd have to be an alternate motion put forward, with that being the alternate motion.
Would anyone else like to speak? Councillor Aylett.
Thank you, Chair. I have some concerns about this matter. One of them is the age range of the young people who are being there. I mean, you're talking of 8-year-olds, which in educational terms is in year 3 of primary school, going up to 16, which is year 11 in senior school. And I feel that there could be problems over the age range. And the other point is, which we made this evening, that these young people are from Essex, which will be attending this house. And we know, especially on Canvey, where care homes before have been put in, and within no time, all the friends of the people in the care home are all turning up at the home in the area, and they're being a general nuisance. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Would anyone else like to speak? Councillor Savage.
Just as a point of clarity, really, I think we've got to not lose sight of the fact that there is a need. There's an unmet need here for kids. I mean, I know personally of a case where a 9-year-old child was taken from Colchester to Leicester because that was the nearest place that they could home that child. Now, that's not acceptable. That's far, far too far from any family resource. The actual documentation says here, the purpose of the children's residence should be to offer accommodation to children under the care of Essex County Council and neighbouring local authorities. So, you know, to me it's irrelevant, really, you know, whether they're 10 miles away or 60 miles away, you know. I think we need to meet that need, yeah. And as unfortunate as it is, I totally agree with Councillor Jackie Thornton's point about the conditions, but I really don't see the essence of the age as being an issue now for me. Just a point of clarity.
Would anyone else like to speak? Councillor Gregg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand the situation with having to have these children, but like the rest of the committee, I think we've all got concerns about the location of it. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak? Members, the motion before you is for approval. May I have a show of hands, please? Those for the motion. Those against the motion. Any abstentions? The voting is 4-4 with 1 abstention, so the casting vote will be to me, and I will go with my original decision. That's approval. The motion is carried and the application is granted subject to conditions and informatives set out in the report. If anyone would like to leave at this juncture, now would be a good time to do so. You're more than welcome to stay. Item 2 is 17 Silverdale, Thundersley, St Peter's Ward. I'll now hand over to the Planning Officer to present this item.
Thank you, Chairman. So to confirm, this application is being presented to the committee on the grounds that the applicant is Councillor Hannah Barton-Brown. And the proposal is for a first floor extension over the garage, and it is recommended for approval. So here we've got the location plan. You can see the Red Edge site here, which is located at the southeastern end of Silverdale in Thundersley. We've got the aerial image of the site showing that the site has a frontage to Silverdale overlooking greenbelt land. The images here show the existing front and rear of the property. The proposed works would remove the first floor front terrace and replace with the dressing room to bedroom 1 and form a separate lounge. There are no changes proposed to the ground floor. So here we have the existing and proposed first floor plan, showing that the proposed lounge area would be accessed from the existing landing and have double doors here at the front, which will open out onto a Juliet balcony. It should be noted that in July 2021, a similar scheme of works was approved, the only difference being that there was a balcony stretching across the front of the lounge and the dressing area, whereas this is just a Juliet balcony, which you can see better here in the proposed front elevation. In terms of the design, the roof form of the proposed extension is segregated from the main dwelling, which enables the dwelling to maintain a balanced and well-proportioned appearance. The proposal is not built further forward of the existing building line, and the building line is staggered along Silverdale, which softens the impact of the proposal. So it's not thought to cause any overshadowing or dominance to neighbouring properties. And it's also noted that no neighbour comments have been received so far either. And so consequently, the application is recommended for approval. And so I will hand back to the Chairman.
Thank you very much. Before I move the recommendation, do members have any questions for the planning officer? Just seeking clarification. Just please, again, as a reminder, refrain from making statements and limit it to questions for the planning officer. Who would like to speak first or ask a question first? Councillor Lillis.
Thank you, Chair. Can you confirm, for the benefit of all members present, just in case they forget when they leave this committee, that the only reason that this application is before us this evening is because the applicant is a fellow councillor of us all, and that the application has been recommended for approval for officers, just in case there's any sniping on social media later on, like there has been on previous occasions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. If that's okay, Chairman. To confirm, the Council's constitution requires applications relating to council-owned land or applications by the council. Wrong notes. To confirm, the Council's constitution requires applications where the Council is aware that a member or officer has made the application to be referred to the Development Control Committee for determination, and that is the only reason it's been referred to the committee.
Are there any other questions? The planning officer's recommendation is that planning permission be granted subject to the conditions and informative set out in the report. For the purposes of debate, I move the recommendation. Councillor Gregg, as Vice Chairman, will you second the motion?
I will second the motion.
Thank you. Please note that members should only speak once during the debate section of the meeting. Who would like to speak first? Okay, members, the motion before you is for approval. May I have a show of hands, please? Those for the motion. That's unanimous. The motion is carried and the application is granted subject to conditions and informatives as set out in the report. Item 3 is the Knightswick Centre, Furtherwick Road, Canvey Island South Ward. I'll now hand over to the planning officer to present this item.
Thank you, Chairman. Okay, so this application is being presented to the committee as the site is on council-owned land. The proposal is to replace 3 entrance doors to the Knightswick Shopping Centre on Canvey Island, and it is recommended for approval. Just one point to note regarding the recommendations and the conditions for this application. Condition 3, the materials condition, refers to materials used in the construction of the existing dwelling. My apologies, it should read materials used in the construction of the commercial premises, which I've changed in our system. Okay, so slide 1 is the location plan. You can see here the red edge site is the Knightswick Centre, and we've got an aerial view of the shopping centre here. The 3 entrance doors which are proposing to be replaced are on the Furtherwick Road entrance, the car park entrance and the High Street entrance. So just to help with orientation, you can see again here Furtherwick Road, the car park entrance and the High Street entrance here. So with the existing and proposed entrance doors, which you can see here, we've got Furtherwick Road, where currently there are a row of manual doors, then some automatic doors on the end. But proposed is to replace these with automatic doors in the middle, operated by a sensor, and on either end there will be manual doors. With the car park entrance and the High Street entrance, there are automatic doors in the middle, currently with manual doors on either side. However, the proposal will be that they will have automatic doors only here in the middle, that will open out, operated by a sensor. It is thought that the overall size and shape of the proposed entrance doors are consistent with what is already there, and the proposal is not thought to cause harm to the host building. And so consequently, the application is recommended for approval, and I will hand back to the Chairman.
Thank you very much. As this application is on Canvey Island, would anyone from Canvey Island Town Council like to say anything? No one present from that. Okay, before I move the recommendation, do members have any questions for the planning officer about this application? Just an opportunity to seek some clarification. Any questions? Okay, the planning officer's recommendation is that planning permission be granted, subject to the conditions and informative set out in the report. For the purposes of debate, I move the recommendation. Councillor Gregg, as Vice Chairman, would you second that motion?
I will second that motion.
Please note that should members wish to speak, they should only speak once. Who would like to speak first? Thank you, Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Chair. Just to say that I visited the site independently today and would welcome anything that makes the centre more secure, attractive and accessible to shoppers. So I wholeheartedly support the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Fuller.
Thank you, Chairman. I second Councillor Lillis's appraisal of this. It's the Knightswick is a very well used and respected area for retail within the island, and I think any opportunity to start to improve the fabric and the appearance would be welcome. And I think this is a very positive first step in the renovation of the Knightswick, and I welcome it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Would anyone else like to add anything? Members, the motion before you is for approval. May I have a show of hands, please? Those for the motion, and that's unanimous. The motion is carried. The application is granted, subject to the conditions and informative set out in the report. Thank you, members. That concludes the business for this evening. Safe journey home, and the meeting closed at 8:27. 8:27. Thank you very much.